Captain Hyunwoo Kim stood on the bridge of the Aegis Dawn, watching the stars through the main screen. The ship was small compared to the military vessels back on Earth, but it was home to 43 brave souls who had traveled farther from home than any human before them. The Aegis Dawn was not built for war. It was made for discovery, for learning, for reaching out to touch the unknown corners of space. Hyunwoo had been captain for 3 years now. He was 35 years old, with calm brown eyes and steady hands. His crew trusted him because he never made quick decisions. He thought carefully about everything. That was why Earth Command had chosen him to lead this mission to the Kepler 442 system. "Captain, we are getting good readings from the third planet," said Yejin Choi from her station. She was the communications specialist, 28 years old with bright eyes that missed nothing. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as data flowed across her screens. "The atmosphere looks interesting. There might have been water there once." Hyunwoo nodded. "Good work, Yejin. Sojin, how are our systems running?" Chief Engineer Sojin Park looked up from her console. She was 32, with oil-stained coveralls and a mind that could fix anything that broke. "Everything is perfect, Captain. The fusion drive is running smooth. The medical bay nanobots finished their weekly maintenance check. All green lights. Excellent. Dongmin, anything on sensors?" Weapons Officer Dongmin. Lee shook his head. He was 29, quiet and careful. The Aegis Dawn only had basic defensive weapons, nothing meant for real fighting. Dongmin's job was more about protecting the ship from space rocks and dangerous radiation than battling enemies. "All clear, Captain. Just us and the stars out here." But Dongmin was wrong. The first sign of trouble came from the long-range sensors. Yejin frowned at her screen and tapped it twice. "Captain, I'm getting something strange. Multiple contacts. Coming in fast." Hyunwoo walked over to look at her screen. "How many?" "I'm not sure yet. The computer is still counting." Yejin's voice got quieter. "Captain, there are a lot of them." The main screen changed to show the sensor display. Dots of light appeared around their ship, growing brighter as they got closer. 10 dots became 20. 20 became 50. 50 became 100. "Mother of God," whispered Dongmin. The final count was 200 ships. They appeared around, the Aegis Dawn like a metal storm, surrounding the small human vessel completely. Each ship was 3 times bigger than the Aegis Dawn. They were dark and angular, covered in weapon ports and armor plating. They looked like they were built for one thing only: destroying other ships. "Battle stations," Hyunwoo said calmly. His voice did not shake, even though his heart was beating fast. The bridge lights changed to red. Throughout the ship, alarms sounded softly. Sojin's hands flew over her controls. "Shields up, all systems ready." Dongmin checked his weapons. "Defensive systems online, but Captain, against 200 ships." "I know," Hyunwoo said. "Yejin, try to contact them." Before Yejin could respond, the main screen flickered. A face appeared there, and it was not human. The alien had gray-green skin stretched tight over a skull with too many angles. Its eyes were black and cold. When it spoke, sharp teeth showed behind thin lips. "Human vessel," the alien said. Its voice was like metal scraping on stone. "I am Fleet Commander Thekvar of the Vorthak Empire. You are surrounded and outgunned. Your weapons are pathetic. Your ship is small and weak. You will surrender now, or be destroyed." Hyunwoo stepped forward. "I am Captain Hyunwoo Kim of the Earth vessel Aegis Dawn. We are on a peaceful research mission. We mean you no harm." Thekvar laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Peaceful? All aliens say this when they see our fleet. You humans are new to space. You do not understand how things work out here. The strong take what they want. The weak serve or die." "We are explorers, not warriors," Hyunwoo said. "That makes you weak," Thekvar replied. "Your ship has no real weapons, no armor worth mentioning. You brought science equipment to a war. How foolish." Around the Aegis Dawn, the Vorthak fleet moved into attack formation. Each ship trained its weapons on the small human vessel. On the bridge, the crew watched their sensor screens show the impossible situation. They were 1 ship against 200. "The Vorthak Empire has conquered 47 worlds. Thekvar continued. We have destroyed fleets 10 times larger than your single ship. Some species fight, some beg, some try to run. All of them lose in the end. You will join them as slaves, or you will join them as corpses. Hyun-woo looked at his crew. Sojin sat at her station, hands steady on her controls. Dongmin gripped his weapons console, ready to fight even though they all knew it was hopeless. Yejin waited for orders, her young face serious but not afraid. These were good people. They had families back on Earth. They had dreams and hopes and futures that might end in the next few minutes. But they were human, and humans did not give up easily. What do you want? Hyun-woo asked. Surrender your ship. Your crew will work in our mines until they die. Your technology will become ours. Your world will be marked for conquest. This is the way of things. And if we refuse? Thekvar's eyes glittered. Then you die quickly instead of slowly. I am generous today. I give you 1 hour to prepare your surrender. Use this time to say goodbye to your lives as free beings. The screen went dark. The alien commander's face disappeared, leaving only the stars and the 200 enemy ships surrounding them. Silence filled the bridge. Everyone looked at their captain, waiting for orders. Hyun-woo walked to his chair and sat down. He folded, his hands in his lap, and thought carefully, the way he always did. His crew watched him, knowing that their lives depended on what he decided next. Captain? Sojin asked quietly. Hyun-woo looked up at her. Tell me about the nanobots in the medical bay. Sojin blinked in surprise. Sir? The medical nanobots? Yes. What can they do? They're designed for healing. They can repair damaged tissue, fight infection, deliver medicine directly to cells. They're very small and very smart. They can work together to complete complex tasks. But, Captain, I don't understand. How programmable are they? Sojin thought, for a moment. Very programmable. They use quantum processors, so they can be reprogrammed for almost any task that requires precision work at the molecular level. But why? Hyun-woo turned to Dongmin. The navigation deflector array. Can it be modified? The deflector? It pushes space debris away from our ship. I suppose it could be recalibrated, but... Ye-jin, Hyun-woo said. Can you establish quantum entanglement communication with Earth from here? Ye-jin shook her head. The distance is too great for normal communication. Quantum entanglement might work, but the power requirements would be enormous. We'd have to route power from almost every system on the ship. Hyun-woo stood up. We have 1 hour. Sojin, I want you to reprogram the medical nanobots. Dongmin, start modifying the deflector array. Ye-jin, begin establishing quantum communication with Earth Defense Command. But, Captain, Dongmin said, what are we going to do? We can't fight 200 ships. Hyun-woo smiled for the first time since the fleet had appeared. You're right, Dongmin. We can't fight them. But we don't need to fight them. We just need to be human. The crew looked at each other, confused but trusting. They had followed Hyun-woo this far into space. They would follow him through whatever came next. Protocol 7, Hyun-woo said. Begin implementation immediately. All around the ship, the crew began to work. They had 1 hour to prepare for surrender, but humans had never been very good at surrendering. The Aegis Dawn hummed with quiet activity. In the engineering section, Sojin Park worked at her computer terminal with focused intensity. Her fingers moved across the holographic interface, diving deep into the programming code that controlled the ship's medical nanobots. The nanobots were tiny machines, smaller than human cells. Each one was equipped with quantum processors that made them incredibly smart for their size. They were designed to heal injuries, fight diseases, and repair damaged organs. But Sojin was changing their purpose entirely. Computer, show me the nanobot communication protocols, she said. The screen filled with complex data streams. The nanobots used electromagnetic frequencies to talk to each other and coordinate their work. Sojin studied the patterns, looking for something specific. There, she whispered to herself. That's the frequency range. She began typing new commands. Instead of healing tissue, the nanobots would now analyze and map electronic systems. Instead of fighting bacteria, they would quietly infiltrate computer networks. Instead of delivering medicine, they would gather information and wait for instructions. The beautiful thing about nanobots was that they could spread through any medium that conducted electricity, computer networks, communication systems, even the basic power grids that kept ships running. Once they got inside a system, they became invisible observers that could map everything and wait for the right moment to act. So-Jin programmed them with a new mission: find their way aboard the Vorthak ships and learn everything about how those ships worked. Map the computer systems, identify the key control nodes, prepare for possible remote access, but do it all quietly, without triggering any alarms. Nanobots are ready for deployment, she reported to the bridge. On the weapons deck, Dong-Min Lee stared at the navigation deflector array. It was a simple device, really. It created electromagnetic fields that pushed small objects away from the ship's path. Space was full of tiny rocks and metal fragments that could damage a ship traveling at high speed. The deflector kept them safe. But Dong-Min was thinking about the array differently now. What if instead of pushing small objects away, it could generate much more powerful electromagnetic pulses? What if it could become a weapon that didn't destroy things, but disabled them? He opened the access panels and began rerouting power cables. The deflector normally used about 5% of the ship's power. Dong-Min was preparing to feed it almost 50%. That would create an electromagnetic pulse strong enough to affect every electronic system within several thousand kilometers. That their pulse wouldn't destroy the Vorthak ships, but it might disrupt their systems long enough for other plans to work. It was a one-shot weapon, though. Once they used it, the deflector array would burn out completely. Deflector modifications complete, he reported. Ready for activation on your command. In the communication center, Ye-Jin Choi faced the most difficult task of all. Quantum entanglement communication was still experimental technology. It used pairs of particles that remained connected no matter how far apart they were. When something happened to one particle, the same thing instantly happened to its partner. Earth had a quantum communication array in orbit around the moon. The Aegis Dawn carried a smaller version. In theory, they could establish instant communication across any distance. In practice, it required enormous amounts of power and perfect timing. Ye-Jin began rerouting power from life support, lighting, and even the food preparation systems. The ship's interior lights dimmed as energy flowed to the quantum communication array. The temperature dropped several degrees as heating systems shut down. "Come on," she whispered, watching her instruments. "Come on, work!" The quantum field stabilized. Connection established. Suddenly, she was looking at the face of Admiral Chang at Earth Defense Command, 57 light-years away. "Aegis Dawn, this is Earth Defense. We're receiving your signal, but barely. What's your status?" "Admiral, we're surrounded by 200 enemy warships. Uploading tactical data now." The information flowed through the quantum link in seconds. Ship positions, weapon signatures, fleet composition, everything the Earth Defense Forces would need to understand what humanity was facing. "Understood, Aegis Dawn. Can you hold your position?" "We're implementing Protocol 7, sir." Admiral Chang's eyes widened. Protocol 7 was a theoretical plan, something that existed only in classified files. It had never been tested in real combat. "Are you certain about this, Captain Kim?" Captain Hyun-woo stepped into view of the communication pickup. "We're certain, Admiral. Beginning implementation now." Meanwhile, aboard the Vorthak flagship, Fleet Commander Thekvar watched the human ship with amusement. The small vessel hadn't moved. It hadn't powered up weapons. It hadn't tried to run. The humans were just sitting there, apparently accepting their fate. "Weak," he said to his second-in-command. "Just like all the others. At least they know when. They are beaten." "Should we board them now?" asked Sub-Commander Veltar. "Let them have their full hour," Thekvar replied. "I want them to think about what is coming. Fear makes slaves more obedient." But the humans weren't thinking about surrender. Throughout the Aegis Dawn, the crew worked with quiet efficiency. They had trained for impossible situations, and this was certainly that. In the medical bay, Dr. Jin Ho worked with So-Jin to prepare the nanobots for deployment. The tiny machines were loaded into the ship's communication transmitters, ready to be sent out with the next message to the Vorthak fleet. "Will this actually work?" Dr. Jin Ho asked. "The nanobots are designed to infiltrate biological systems," So-Jin explained. "But their quantum processors are adaptable. They should be able to interface with any electronic system that uses standard electromagnetic frequencies." And the Vorthak ships? Every ship in space uses similar basic technologies. Power distribution, computer networks, life support systems. The nanobots will find a way in. In the engineering bay, technician Min Su helped Dong Min with the final modifications to the deflector array. They rerouted power cables and installed emergency cooling systems to handle the massive energy surge that was coming. "This is going to overload everything," Min Su said. "That's the idea," Dong Min replied. "One big pulse, then we're done. But it should be enough." "Enough for what?" Dong Min smiled grimly. "You'll see." Captain Hyun-woo walked through the ship. Checking on his crew, they were scared, but they were working. That was the human way. When faced with impossible odds, humans didn't panic. They got creative. "Captain," called Engineer Bo-Ram from her station. "Power distribution is ready. We can route maximum energy to any system you choose." "Good. Stand by." Hyun-woo returned to the bridge. His senior officers were at their stations, ready for whatever came next. The main screen still showed the Vorthak fleet surrounding them, 200 ships against one. "Status report," he said. "Nanobots are ready for deployment." So-jin reported. "Deflector array is charged and ready," Dong-min added. "Quantum communication with Earth is stable," Ye-jin confirmed. Hyun-woo checked the chronometer. 43 minutes had passed. 17 minutes remained before the surrender deadline. Ye-jin, open a channel to the Vorthak flagship. The screen flickered, and Thekvar's face appeared. The alien commander looked pleased with himself. "Have you prepared your surrender, human?" "We're still working on it," Hyun-woo said calmly. "These things take time to do properly. Time you do not have much of. 17 minutes remain. We understand. We want to make sure we follow proper procedures." Thekvar laughed. "Procedures? You are about to become slaves. There are no procedures for that." But as they talked, So-jin was working at her station. With each word that passed between the ships, nanobots flowed through the communication signal. They were too small to detect, riding along with the normal data stream. The nanobots spread from the Vorthak flagship to other ships in the fleet. They followed power cables and data networks, quietly mapping everything they found. Within minutes, they had infiltrated dozens of ships. Within an hour, they would be everywhere. "We'll be ready in time," Hyun-woo assured the alien commander. "You had better be. My warriors grow impatient. They want to see what human blood looks like." The screen went dark again. Thekvar's face disappeared. "Nanobots are deploying successfully," So-jin reported quietly. "They're spreading through the fleet's communication network. How long until they map everything?" 20 minutes for basic system identification. Full mapping will take an hour." "We don't have an hour. We don't need full mapping. Basic systems will be enough." Hyun-woo nodded. Around the bridge, his crew worked in focused silence. They were preparing for something that had never been attempted before. They were going to show 200 alien warships what it meant to underestimate humanity. 16 minutes remained until the surrender deadline. 16 minutes to finish preparations for Protocol 7. 16 minutes to prove that humans were not as weak as they appeared. The final minutes ticked away slowly. Throughout the Aegis Dawn, the crew made their last preparations. In the engine room, So-jin watched her screens as thousands of nanobots spread through the Vorthak fleet. The tiny machines were working perfectly, mapping computer systems and finding weak points in the alien ship's defenses. "Status report," Captain Hyun-woo's voice came through the communication system. "Nanobots have infiltrated 87% of the fleet," So-jin replied. "They've mapped basic systems on most ships: navigation, weapons control, life support, power distribution, everything we need." "Excellent work. Stand by." On the bridge, Hyun-woo looked at the chronometer. 3 minutes remained until the surrender deadline. Around him, his officers waited for orders. They had done the impossible in less than an hour, turning their peaceful research ship into something far more dangerous than any weapon. "Ye-jin, prepare for wideband transmission. I want every ship in 50 light-years to receive this message. Captain, that will require enormous power. We'll have to drain almost everything." "Do it!" Ye-jin's fingers flew over her controls. Power flowed from every system on the ship. The lights dimmed to emergency levels. The temperature dropped as heating systems shut down, even the artificial. Gravity fluctuated slightly, But the quantum communication array blazed with energy. The signal would reach not just the Vorthak fleet, but every inhabited system within 50 light years. Earth, the colony worlds, even neutral alien civilizations would receive the message. "Ready for transmission, Captain?" Hyunwoo stood up and faced the main screen. "Record message. Begin transmission." The main screen activated, broadcasting his image across space. Hyunwoo looked calm and confident, nothing like a man about to surrender. "This is Captain Hyunwoo Kim of the Earth vessel Aegis Dawn. We are currently surrounded by 200 ships of the Vorthak Empire. Fleet Commander Thekvar has demanded our surrender and threatened to enslave my crew." On the Vorthak flagship, Thekvar watched the transmission with growing anger. "What is this human doing? He should be surrendering, not making speeches." "I want all who receive this message to understand what happened here today," Hyunwoo continued. "The Aegis Dawn is not a warship. We carry 43 crew members on a peaceful research mission. We have no military weapons, no armor, no defenses except our shields." Thekvar laughed. "He admits his weakness. Good. Let the galaxy see how pathetic humans are." But Hyunwoo wasn't finished. "What we do have is something more dangerous than any weapon. We have human ingenuity. We have the ability to adapt, to improvise, to turn any situation to our advantage. And in the past hour, we have demonstrated why underestimating humanity is a fatal mistake." The alien commander stopped laughing. Something in the human's voice had changed. The calm confidence was still there, but now there was something else. Something that made Thekvar's skin crawl. "You see, the Aegis Dawn wasn't just conducting research in this system. We were also testing humanity's new quantum communication network. The past hour hasn't been spent preparing for surrender. It has been spent establishing instant communication links across human space and uploading complete tactical data about the Vorthak Fleet to Earth Defense Command." Across the Vorthak fleet, alarm signals began to sound. Ship commanders checked their sensors, looking for human reinforcements. But space remained empty, except for their own vessels. "Furthermore," Hyunwoo said, "during our negotiations with Fleet Commander Thekvar, we transmitted modified nanobots through standard communication frequencies. These nanobots have spent the last hour infiltrating every system aboard your ships." Thekvar's eyes went wide. "Impossible. Our communication systems are shielded." But on his ship's bridge, technical officers were already reporting strange readings. Computer systems were behaving oddly. Power distribution networks showed minor fluctuations. Nothing dangerous yet, but something was definitely wrong. "Theon, nanobots are not weapons," Hyunwoo explained to his galaxy-wide audience. "They are medical devices, reprogrammed for a peaceful purpose. They have mapped your ship systems completely. They know where every critical component is located. They know how your computers work, how your weapons function, how your life support operates." On ships throughout the Vorthak fleet, crews began running diagnostic tests. What they found terrified them. Unknown signals were flowing through their computer networks. Tiny foreign objects were moving through their power systems. Their ships had been completely compromised without them even knowing it. "And now," Hyunwoo said, "we will demonstrate why threatening humanity is a mistake you should never make." He turned to his crew. "Ye-Jin, end transmission but keep channels open. I want the galaxy to see this. So-Jin, activate nanobots. Dong-Min, charge the deflector array." "Nanobots activated," So-Jin reported. Throughout the Vorthak fleet, thousands of tiny machines began executing their new programming. "Deflector array charged and ready," Dong-Min confirmed. "Fire." The navigation deflector array unleashed 50% of the Aegis Dawn's total power in a single massive electromagnetic pulse. The wave of energy spread out from the human ship in all directions, washing over the entire Vorthak fleet. Every unshielded electronic system in the area flickered and sparked. Communication arrays went dead, sensor networks shut down, backup computers crashed and rebooted, but the real damage came from the nanobots. The electromagnetic pulse was their signal to begin Phase 2 of their mission. All across the Vorthak fleet, the tiny machines activated simultaneously. They didn't destroy anything. That wasn't their purpose. Instead, they took control. On the Vorthak flagship, Thekvar watched in horror as his weapon systems came alive without orders. Every gun on his ship swiveled toward empty space and fired. Energy beams and projectile weapons discharged into the void, draining the ship's power. Reserves. What is happening? He screamed at his technical staff. The humans, sir. They've taken control of our weapons. Throughout the fleet, the same thing was happening. 200 warships opened fire on nothing, wasting their ammunition and energy, in a massive fireworks display that served no purpose except to show how completely the humans had beaten them. Navigation systems are compromised, reported another officer. We're locked onto a course toward the human colony in the Ross 154 system. Change course immediately. We can't, sir. The navigation computers won't respond to our commands. Thekvar looked at his displays in growing panic. His entire fleet was now heading toward human space at sublight speeds. At their current velocity, the journey would take 47 years. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the life support systems. They were still functioning, but barely. The nanobots had reduced power to minimal levels. The ships would remain habitable, but the crew would be uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. Temperature dropped to just above freezing. Air recycling slowed to the minimum safe rate. Food production systems shut down to emergency rations only. Water recycling continued, but waste disposal became a manual process. This is a message to the Vorthak Empire and all who would threaten humanity. Captain Hyun-woo's voice came through the fleet's communication systems. The nanobots had taken control of those two. We could have destroyed your fleet completely. We could have killed every one of you. We chose not to. Thekvar tried to respond, but his communication systems were no longer under his control. Instead, we are sending you home. Your journey will take several decades at sublight speed. Your ships will remain functional, but not comfortable. You will have time to think about what happened here. Time to consider whether threatening peaceful species is really worth the consequences. Across the galaxy, other civilizations watched the events unfold with amazement. The mighty Vorthak Empire, conquerors of 47 worlds, had been completely neutralized by a single human research vessel, and the humans had done it without killing anyone. This is our message to the galaxy, Hyun-woo continued. Humanity seeks peace. We prefer cooperation to conflict, but we will not be victims. We will not be slaves, and anyone who threatens us will discover that we fight wars very differently than other species. On the Aegis Dawn, the crew watched their sensor displays as the Vorthak fleet began its long journey toward human space. 200 ships moving slowly away from them, completely under the control of tiny medical robots. Captain, Sojin said, quietly, we're receiving messages from Earth Defense Command. They want to know how we did it. Tell them we'll provide a full technical report when we return, Hyun-woo replied. Dongmin, any sign of other Vorthak forces? Negative, sir. This appears to have been their entire fleet in this sector. Yejin, are we still receiving acknowledgments from other systems? Yes, Captain. The transmission reached 43 inhabited systems. Everyone is talking about what happened here. Hyun-woo sat back in his captain's chair. Around him, his crew began the process of restoring normal ship functions. The immediate crisis was over, but the implications of what they had done were just beginning. Sir, Yejin said, we're receiving a message from the Terran Colonial Alliance. They're asking if we need assistance. Tell them we're fine. Tell them humanity is just getting started. The Aegis Dawn sat alone in space now, surrounded by stars instead of enemy ships. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within hours, every major civilization had received copies of the transmission from the Aegis Dawn. The images were clear and undeniable. 200 Vorthak warships, completely neutralized by a single human research vessel. On Earth, Admiral Chang stood in the war room of Defense Command, surrounded by holographic displays showing the tactical situation. The data uploaded by Captain Hyun-woo's crew was more detailed than anything they had ever collected about the Vorthak Empire. This changes everything, said General Park, the head of Earth's Strategic Planning Division. The Vorthak have been expanding toward our territory for years. Now their entire main fleet is neutralized. More than neutralized, Admiral Chang replied. They're heading directly toward our space at sublight speed. 47 years from now, they'll arrive at Ross 154 as prisoners instead of conquerors. The implications were staggering. The Vorthak Empire controlled nearly 200 star systems. Their military might had seemed unstoppable. But now the galaxy had seen them defeated by medical nanobots and a navigation deflector. Sir, said Intelligence Officer Kim, we're receiving reports from throughout Vorthak space. subject species are beginning to rebel. The Kalari system declared independence 6 hours ago. The Thek homeworld is reporting massive civil unrest. Admiral Chang nodded grimly. When people see that the seemingly invincible can be defeated, they start believing that freedom is possible. Meanwhile, aboard the lead Vorthak vessel, Fleet Commander Thekvar sat in his command chair and stared at the main screen. The stars moved slowly past as his ship traveled toward human space at a fraction of light speed. At this rate, the journey that should have taken days would take decades. "Commander," said his technical officer, "we've tried everything. The nanobots have completely infiltrated our computer systems. Every time we attempt to override their control, they adapt and block us." "What about the other ships?" "Same situation across the fleet. Navigation, weapons, life support, everything is under their control. The humans left us enough functionality to survive, but not enough to fight or change course." Thekvar's second-in-command, Sub-Commander Veltar, approached his chair. "Sir, we're receiving reports from home. The defeat is becoming known throughout the Empire. Several subject worlds are already in open rebellion." "How many?" 17 systems so far. The number is growing hourly." Thekvar closed his eyes. The Vorthak Empire had been built on fear. When subject species believed the Vorthak were invincible, they stayed conquered. But once that illusion was broken, everything would fall apart. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the human ship." The main screen flickered and Captain Hyunwoo's face appeared. He looked calm and professional, not like someone who had just humiliated the galaxy's most feared military force. "Fleet Commander Thekvar, this is Captain Kim. I hope you're settling in for your journey." "Human!" Thekvar snarled. "When we reach your space, we will." "You'll what?" Hyunwoo interrupted. "You'll be traveling in ships you can't control, with weapons you can't fire, arriving decades behind schedule at a destination that will be heavily defended. What exactly do you think you'll accomplish?" Thekvar had no answer. "I'm contacting you to offer a choice," Hyunwoo continued. "You can continue on your current course, arriving at human space as powerless prisoners. Or you can accept our terms for immediate release." "Terms?" "The Vorthak Empire will cease all aggressive expansion. You will withdraw from all systems conquered in the past 50 years. You will release all enslaved species and allow them to govern themselves. In return, we will restore control of your ships and allow you to return home." "Impossible. The Empire will never." "The Empire is already collapsing," Hyunwoo said calmly. "Our intelligence reports indicate that 17 systems have declared independence in the past 12 hours. By the time you could return home at IX sublight speed, there might not be an empire left to rule." Around the Vorthak bridge, officers exchanged glances. They had all heard the same reports. The careful structure of fear and military might that held their empire together was crumbling. "Consider your options carefully," Hyunwoo said. "You have 47 years to think about it. We'll check back with you periodically to see if you've changed your mind." The transmission ended, leaving the Vorthak command crew in silence. Back on the Aegis Dawn, Captain Hyunwoo turned to his senior officers. "Status report." "All systems operating normally," Sojin reported. "The nanobots are maintaining control of the Vorthak fleet. No attempts to break free have succeeded." "Long-range communications are stable," Yejin added. "We're receiving updates from Earth Command every few hours. The political situation in Vorthak space is deteriorating rapidly. Sensors show no other hostile forces in the area," Dongmin confirmed. "We appear to be secure for now," Hyunwoo nodded. "Good. Sojin, I want you to begin work on a technical report documenting exactly how we accomplish this. Earth Command will want to understand every detail." "Already started, Captain. The nanobots recorded everything they did. We have complete technical specifications on Vorthak computer systems, weapons, life support, everything." "Excellent. That information will be invaluable for our defense forces." As the crew worked, messages continued to arrive from across the galaxy. Other species wanted to know if humanity would help them against the Vorthak. Some offered trade agreements. Others requested technical assistance. The most interesting message came from the Kalari Republic, one of the first species to rebel against Vorthak rule. "Captain Kim," said the Kalari ambassador, her blue-scaled face serious on the communication screen. My people owe you a debt that can never be repaid. For 200 years, we lived under Vorthak oppression. Today, we are free because you showed us that the impossible was possible. We're glad we could help, Hyunwoo replied. But your freedom is your own achievement. We just provided the opportunity. Nevertheless, we would like to offer our assistance. The Kalari are skilled engineers and scientists. We would be honored to share our knowledge with humanity. Similar offers came from other liberated species. The Thek Coalition offered rare minerals. The Zephyrian Assembly provided star charts of unexplored regions. The Mantari Collective shared advanced medical technology. Within days, humanity had gone from being an unknown newcomer to being the center of a growing alliance of free species. Captain, Yejin said, Earth Command wants to know when we'll be returning home. Hyunwoo looked at the star map on his screen. Tell them we'll complete our original mission first. We came here to explore the Kepler 442 system, and that's what we're going to do. Sir, given what's happened, don't you think we should return immediately? The galaxy needs to see that we keep our word, Hyunwoo explained. We said we were on a peaceful research mission, so we'll complete that research before we go home. For the next 3 weeks, the Aegis Dawn conducted detailed surveys of the Kepler 442 system. They mapped planets, analyzed atmospheric compositions, and cataloged stellar phenomena. It was the work they had come to do, and they did it thoroughly. All the while, reports continued to arrive from Vorthak space. The Empire was disintegrating rapidly. 43 systems had declared independence. The Vorthak home government was paralyzed by internal conflict. Military commanders were defecting with their fleets intact. Captain, Sojin said one morning, we're receiving another transmission from Fleet Commander Thekvar. Put him through. The alien commander appeared on screen, but he looked different now. Older, more tired. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something like resignation. Captain Kim, Thekvar said, I have been authorized by the Vorthak High Command to accept your terms. All of them? All of them. Withdrawal from conquered systems, release of enslaved species, end to aggressive expansion. In return, you will restore control of our ships. Hyunwoo considered this. And what guarantee do we have that you'll honor this agreement? You have seen what humanity can do. We will not make the mistake of underestimating you again. Very well. Sojin, begin the process of transferring ship control back to the Vorthak fleet. Throughout the enemy ships, nanobots began executing their final programming. Control systems came back online. Navigation computers accepted new commands. Weapons systems responded to their operators. But the nanobots didn't simply disappear. They remained in the ship's systems, dormant but ready. If the Vorthak ever broke their agreement, the tiny machines could reactivate instantly. Your ships are now under your control, Hyunwoo announced. Remember our agreement. The galaxy is watching. One by one, the Vorthak vessels changed course and jumped to faster-than-light travel. Within hours, the space around the Aegis Dawn was empty again. So, Dongmin said, what now? Hyunwoo smiled. Now we finish our research and go home. We have a lot to report to Earth Command. The Aegis Dawn continued its mission, conducting the peaceful exploration it had always been designed for. But the galaxy had changed forever. The age of Vorthak expansion was over. The age of human influence had begun, and it had all started with 43 people who refused to surrender. 1 year later, Captain Hyunwoo Kim stood on the observation deck of the Earth Defense Command orbital station, looking down at the blue marble of his home planet. The view never got old, but everything else had changed dramatically since the incident at Kepler 442. The station itself was 3 times larger than it had been before. Construction ships worked around the clock, adding new sections, new docking bays, new communication arrays. Earth had become the center of something unprecedented in galactic history, a voluntary alliance of free species. Captain Kim, said Admiral Chang, approaching from behind, the ceremony is about to begin. Hyunwoo turned away from the window. I still think this is unnecessary, Admiral. We were just doing our jobs. What you did changed the balance of power in the galaxy. That deserves recognition. They walked together toward the main auditorium, where representatives from dozens of species had gathered. The ceremony would officially establish the Free Worlds Alliance, with Earth as its coordinating center. In the past year, the political transformation had been remarkable. The Vorthak Empire had completely collapsed, not through military conquest, but through internal rebellion. 87 star systems had declared independence, and most had requested membership in the new alliance. The Vorthak themselves had retreated to their core worlds, their military might broken, and their will to fight destroyed. They no longer posed a threat to anyone. "How are the others doing?" Admiral Chang asked as they walked. "Sojin was promoted to Chief of Technological Development," Hyun-woo replied. "She's leading a team that's working with the Kalari to improve our nanobot technology. The medical applications alone could revolutionize healthcare across the galaxy." "And the others?" Dong Min heads the new Strategic Technologies Division. He's developing non-lethal defense systems based on the deflector array modifications. Yejin runs the Interstellar Communications Network. The quantum entanglement system is now connecting 43 worlds in real time. They entered the auditorium, to find it packed with beings from across the galaxy. Humans sat next to blue-scaled Kalari, who shared space with the crystalline Zephyrians. The multi-limbed Mantari delegation occupied a specially designed section, while the energy-based Luxari attended through holographic projection. All of them had one thing in common. They had been freed from Vorthak oppression by the actions of one small human ship. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all classifications," announced the ceremony coordinator, "please welcome Captain Hyun-woo Kim of the Earth vessel Aegis Dawn." The applause was thunderous, coming from dozens of different species in dozens of different ways. Some clapped with hands, others with tentacles, some made harmonious sounds, and the Luxari created beautiful light displays. Hyun-woo took the podium, looking out at the diverse audience. "Thank you all for coming, but I want to be clear about something from the start. What happened at Kepler 442 wasn't the work of one person or even one ship. It was the result of human ingenuity, teamwork, and the refusal to accept defeat." He paused, letting his words sink in. "More importantly, it was only possible because we chose not to fight fire with fire. We could have tried to build bigger weapons, stronger shields, more powerful ships. Instead, we used our greatest strength, the ability to think differently." In the audience, Ambassador Velkara of the Kalari Republic nodded approvingly. She had been one of the first to reach out to humanity after the Vorthak defeat. "The Free Worlds Alliance represents a new way of thinking about galactic civilization," Hyun-woo continued. "We're not an empire built on conquest. We're not a hegemony maintained by fear. We're a voluntary association of species who believe that cooperation is stronger than domination." The applause started again, but Hyun-woo raised his hand for silence. "However, we must also be realistic. There will always be those who prefer to take rather than trade, to conquer rather than cooperate. The galaxy is vast, and we have only explored a small part of it. We must be prepared for new challenges. In the past year, deep space monitoring stations had detected disturbing signals from the galaxy's outer rim. Something called the Hegemony Collective was expanding inward, consuming entire star systems. They made the Vorthak Empire look peaceful by comparison. "That's why Earth Defense Command is launching the Aegis Project," Hyun-woo announced. "A new class of exploration vessels designed for peaceful contact but equipped with the latest defensive technologies. Each ship will carry the nanobots, quantum communicators, and adaptive systems that proved so effective against the Vorthak." The audience stirred with interest. Many species had requested access to human technology, but Earth had been cautious about sharing their most advanced systems. "More importantly," Hyun-woo said, "each Aegis-class vessel will carry mixed crews from Alliance species. Humans will serve alongside Kalari engineers, Zephyrian navigators, Mantari scientists, and others. We will explore the galaxy together, as equals." This brought the loudest applause yet. The idea of integrated crews was revolutionary. Most species preferred to keep their technology and personnel separate. After the ceremony, Hyun-woo found himself in Admiral Chang's office, reviewing reports from across the Alliance. "The Mantari have completed their analysis of the nanobots," Chang said. "They believe the technology can be adapted for terraforming applications. Dead worlds could be made habitable in decades instead of centuries." "What about the Zephyrians? Their contribution to the quantum communication network has increased our range by 300%. We can now maintain real-time contact with ships exploring the Outer Rim. Hyun-woo nodded, scanning through more reports. The Alliance was growing stronger every day, but so were the challenges they faced. Admiral, what do we know about this? Hegemony Collective? Chang's expression grew serious. Not much. They're expanding from the galactic core, absorbing everything in their path. No communication, no negotiation, just systematic conquest. Intelligence estimates they control over 1,000 star systems. How long until they reach Alliance space? At their current rate of expansion, 50 to 75 years, but that assumes they maintain their current pace. And if they accelerate? Then we could be looking at first contact within 25 years. Hyun-woo stood up and walked to the window again, looking out at the construction ships working on the station expansion. Humanity had bought itself time by defeating the Vorthak, but time was running out. Admiral, I want to command the first Aegis-class vessel. Captain, you've already done more than enough. You could retire to any position you want. Earth Command, Colonial Administration, even political office, the voters would elect you to anything. The galaxy is still dangerous, Hyun-woo replied. There are species out there we haven't met yet, threats we haven't identified. Humanity needs to be ready. And you think you're the one to get us ready? Hyun-woo smiled. I think humanity is the one to get the galaxy ready. We've shown that there's another way to solve problems. Now we need to spread that message before something worse than the Vorthak decides we're a threat. 6 months later, the UES Aegis Dawn II launched from Earth orbit. It was 10 times larger than the original Aegis Dawn, with a crew of 400 beings from 12 different species. Captain Hyun-woo Kim stood on the bridge, surrounded by the soft hum of advanced technology and the quiet chatter of his diverse crew. Captain, called Chief Engineer So-Jin Park from her station. All systems are green. The nanobots are online and ready for deployment. Quantum communications are stable across all frequencies. Navigation systems show optimal performance, reported Zephyrian navigator Crystalline Song. Her voice chimed like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Defensive systems are fully charged, added Mantari weapons specialist Tactical Appendage 7, speaking through a translation device that converted his chemical signals into audible words. Communications array is receiving signals from 47 Alliance worlds, confirmed Kalari Communications Officer Bluescale Harmony. Hyun-woo looked around at his bridge crew, representatives of species that had been enemies or strangers just 2 years ago. Now they worked together as one team, united by a common purpose. Set course for the Galactic Rim, he ordered. It's time to see what else is out there. The Aegis Dawn II engaged its faster-than-light drive and disappeared into the void, carrying humanity's message of cooperation and strength to the unknown regions of space. Behind them, Earth continued its transformation into the center of the Free Worlds Alliance. Construction proceeded on new ships, new stations, new technologies. Scientists from dozens of species worked together on projects that would have been impossible alone. But most importantly, children from all the Alliance species grew up together on Earth and other worlds, learning that cooperation was stronger than conquest, that diversity was more valuable than uniformity, that the galaxy was big enough for everyone. The Vorthak Empire was gone, but its replacement was something the galaxy had never seen before. A civilization built on choice rather than force, on partnership rather than domination. And it all started with 43 humans who refused to surrender, who chose to think differently, who proved that the most powerful weapon in the universe was not a gun or a bomb, but an idea. The idea that there was always another way. The idea that giving up was never an option.